What's going on, guys? It's your boy, the ITP Paladin here. Go figure. Go figure. It would just pop up right when I'm about to speak. I was actually, my throat was 100% clear before I began. So, quick spot of news, because that's not actually part of the video I wanted to put out real quick, but it's kind of more of a rant than anything. But there is a bit of big news that just came, and I don't actually have a visual for it right now because I haven't seen any articles. Then again, I only did like a shorthand search, so by all means, you could probably look and find it right about the time that this video comes live. But supposedly, Sony just made a purchase on Bungie. So a quick bit of input based on what I've seen from the very few posts that I've come across. They were mentioning that essentially that since they bought Bungie, it was kind of like a big move comparing like Microsoft to Activision. And since they now have Bungie, the creators of Halo, the ones that made Microsoft go on the board with the gigantic titan that is literally the Halo industry, it's kind of a big deal. However, I do want to input my sense for just a moment and quickly state that may be true that they got Bungie, but if you take a look at their biggest titles being Halo and everything, and most of those titles are no longer being, or at least Halo 3 to my knowledge isn't being supported. I think the rest of them are kind of being supported, but they are Xbox exclusives by Bungie, meaning, as far as I know, Microsoft is still going to get a payout for anybody that plays those games, unless Sony comes in and does a power move or whatever not. But even if they have Bungie, all they really have is Destiny, and Bungie never hasn't actually done anything for Microsoft as of lately. 343 is the one that picked up on Halo, and according to statistics, they're actually doing a good job. So, is this a hit to Microsoft? I don't think so. Like, yes, it's like a hit to kind of like an homage of like, oh, well, they made it what it is. Well, you're not wrong, but they haven't done anything for Microsoft lately. Everything that they've done with Destiny is always played on PlayStation first. So you take it with a grain of salt. So just putting that rant out there. There's more information on it. Just go find it. But I wanted to quickly cut onto that news. Now on to the rant. So I've mentioned him before on my channel, a guy named Kager. You can see it in the top corner over there in my post. Basically, I put out a tweet saying, in shorthand explanation, Kager made a series for hero guides and one from Mindset, as we see below. And in my playlist, which you'll see starts with Against the Sun, it was actually a pretty hype song for me, so I just put it in there for the hell of it. Basically, I had saved the videos for me that pertain to me. So I have Soldier, I have McCree, Reaper, Tracer, and Widow as my 5 hero guides that I put in there, and they're all 15 minutes roughly averaging. But the overall views really show where the players, or the player base, mindset really is and what their priorities really are. The mindset, the way that you think, is the most important of all these videos. It is the most important, hands down. But 2,000 views compared to the hero guides 15,000 plus. Now, you can see just by this picture alone, and I have the actual numbers, the Soldier 76 has the 15K, the McCree guide has 11K, and then the Reaper guide has 22K, and then the Tracer and Widow are not shown, but they are respectively at, rounding up, 10K, and then 19K flat for their respective ones, Tracer being at the 10K. So, continuing on with this point, you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see that it's highlighting a little bit in gray, but you don't see my mouse for some reason. Whatever. I only point this out because players who wonder why they can't climb despite all the guides available really lost the concept of what their focus really needs to be on. Forget that last little bit right there smacking my head, but ultimately it's true, because I'm not really going to plug Kager over here, because honestly, he is really good with his content. And it speaks for itself. I don't need to bolster the guy's ego any further, truth be told. He really does put out efficient and quick guides that you could watch, and it has inherent value. But the thing that's bugging me is that every time I go onto Twitter and anytime there's a discussion of Overwatch where it's like, oh, it's kind of bullshit, like how this group of players can apparently play these characters and they climb really fast, or I see some tweets that go into the bullshit of oh, my rank is so toxic, or hit scan DPS is toxic, or the tanks are toxic. Okay. Just to quickly cover, this is actually major proof of where players' mindsets are on. You're more focused on improving your mechanics and improving your gameplay, but you're not focusing on not only the mindset for success in the long run of things, but you're also not even focusing on the core concept of what is important to climbing. Climbing is not a primary goal. Climbing is an achievable, like, secondary goal, but it is not your primary goal. When you play, you don't play to climb, you play to improve, as stated in his video. And quite honestly, I'm just going to throw a link into his video at the end of this all, but you really should be watching that if you want to improve. I know that it is successful, and I know that it is working because I'm not only noticing improvements in my gameplay and my positioning and my mechanics, I'm noticing it in my attitude. Truthfully speaking, your mentality is the most important prospect of your climb. If you're not in a mindset of improving or a mindset of positivity, then you're going to focus on the negative aspect, and it's going to cause you to tilt. And honestly, one of the biggest pieces of advice is that came from a pro player, and I've seen this in action, so I know for a fact it works because it works in my gameplay personally. When you tilt, your match is done. When one player on your team or the enemy team tilts and they're gone off the deep end, you automatically get a one-way ticket to a loss if it's your team, or a win if it's their team, because they will end up leaving the match, they will end up throwing the match, they'll end up just not playing as great as they can be. And it was encouraged by a pro player to cause people to tilt. It sounds like a toxic thing to do, but if you get them to tilt, you win more matches. And ultimately, that kind of is, again, the secondary goal, but again, your primary goal should be to improve. You should never really be toxic, and I'm not encouraging toxicity. But this is an important mindset that is just not covered. And I really hate the aspect that the views literally speak for themselves. Like, sure, the guides may have more time on it, but just within 2 months, 2,000 views versus 6 months ago, 15,000 views for Soldier. Nobody wants to focus on the mindset. Nobody wants, and maybe he was climbing at that time, so maybe the views are not as consistent with each other, but it still shows. Your mindset is the most important thing to improve, the base and core gameplay. You can work on your mechanics all you want. This game focuses on 3 core principles in order for improvement. And if you don't unite them in a perfect way, you're just not going to end up climbing. And quite honestly, again, I'm putting this into practice. I'm changing my mentality. I don't care if I win or lose a competitive match at the end of the night. Yes, it's a little disheartening, like, at the end of that match, I reconcile what just happened over that past 5 to 15 minute matchup, because that's usually the average match length anyway. And I think, and this is what came from another YouTuber named SVB. Definitely need to check him out. I'll put his channel in my link as well. And he basically says that your goal should be to improve. Now, let's say you go into a match and you lose the match. Or rather, if you win a match, did you play hard enough? In fact, actually, forget the whole winning or losing aspect. Did you play hard enough that you believe that you should have won that match? Like, did you play with the mindset of, at the end of it all, damn, I should have won, or damn, I shouldn't have won? So if you have that mindset, in fact, it was actually clipped in Cager's video actually for mindset, so I'll let that be the ultimate discussion point for anybody. Go to then see that video. Absolutely, hands down, see this video. But he basically said, if you didn't think that you played hard enough to not win, then you don't really have any grounds to complain. Your goal is to improve, and if you first off realize the issue that you didn't play as hard as you should have, then you have nothing to complain about. You're still improving. It just means that you recognize your error and you need to improve upon it. Whereas if you believe you've played hard enough to win the match but you still lost, you've achieved your goal. Because not only do you realize, I played at my absolute best, I should have won but lost, you'll already see more than most other players do in their mindset. Improving your gameplay is the focus, but a lot of people don't care about that entire thing. They don't care about improving. They only care about getting their mechanics down, getting their reaction timing down, try to get these 360 scopes that you see Pine do, or you see Carpe do over in the Overwatch League, or these professionals, or these memers, or you want to be an incredible shot like ML7, making these incredible nade throws halfway across the map and being able to count down 3, 2, 1, and then it lands in the enemy team. Like, you focus on your improvement, and you will eventually get there. but nobody cares. They don't, and again, I repeat this phrase, I don't know if even I've actually mentioned it or if I thought it in my head. Players want to play to get better, but they don't want to improve. And once again, this just shows it. My mini rant here is that, you know, first off, you are the only factor that you can control for a majority of the time. Control what you can. Change your mindset. Don't tell, and again, I'm putting this into practice for myself. And I've noticed these changes. I've been practicing Widow and Tracer and Quick Play. And Quick Play definitely doesn't matter, but I notice when I start to tilt, I either step away from the game or I move on to the next one and I just, you know, take a minute to cool myself down mentally and just move on to something that draws my attention and just say, I realize the mistakes I did in that match and I know what to do to improve the next time, so on and so forth. I'm putting a lot of useless banter right now, and again, this was more of a rant, so I do apologize in advance, but long story made incredibly short, the player base is definitely not in the right direction. And, you know, I understand that the hype of the game is dying down right now, and I put up a previous tweet mentioning about what's going on with Overwatch 2 and the pro scene. More on that maybe in another video if this gets a good reaction, maybe if I get like 5 likes or whatever. In fact, you know what? I'm aiming for 10 likes this video. Be sure to like this video so that I either make more of this content and talk about Overwatch related stuff, or just don't like it at all, in which case, all right, I'll just make whatever until I get something. I'm not giving up. I'm going to make content. I want to be a content creator. This is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to end the video because we're about to hit like 12 minutes on my recording time. Yeah, so that's really all I wanted to rant about. And quite honestly, once more, you definitely need to check that mindset video up there out, because it is the most important thing that you can watch if you want to improve at the game. I'm signing off. Have a good night, everybody. I'll see you tonight on Glimish. Be sure to follow me here on YouTube as well, and be sure to like that video like I mentioned, and I'll see you hopefully on stream tonight. Peace out, guys.